I was like, if we get remarried, you're not divorcing me again.
Yeah.
I was like,
That was her
staying
only
married.
request, nothing else. And I looked at her crazy like, that's it?
Hello and welcome to the How to Relationship podcast, the podcast where we speak to couples to find out how to make relationships last. I'm your host, Anais Lucia. I'm so excited for today's couple because I have been watching them on YouTube. They are a couple who are also the host of their own podcast and YouTube channel, the Justice and Faith podcast. And yes, those are their names, Justice and Faith. Isn't that perfect? That's amazing, right? So I love watching them. I'm so happy that they decided to be on the podcast. So let's get into it. Hello, Justice and Faith. Welcome to the How to Relationship podcast. It's so good to have you here.
We're excited to be on. Thank you for having us.
So before we get started, can you let the audience know, how long you guys have been together, married? I know your answer might be a little bit more different than other couples, but
we want you to know because you're probably going to explain it in actual specific terms. You kind of know my spiel about how it goes.
We met it was 2014, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we started dating almost right away. And then we got married pretty quickly. We got married in 2015, in September of 2015. And then, unfortunately, we got divorced.
We did not get married.
What?
December 2015. What did you just say?
15.
No.
Or was it 14? Oh, we met in 13.
We have a cheat sheet, right?
Yeah. We met in 13, got married in 14.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, I'm getting the dates mixed up. And then, unfortunately, we got divorced like right around our 1-year anniversary. And we were actually divorced for 3 years, give or take a couple months. Like it was almost exactly 3 years. And then we started talking again randomly because both of us became single again because we had like relationships we were in during the time when we were divorced. But we both became single again and then started talking. And then we have just celebrated our second 1-year anniversary back in August. So, we've been back together now for a little over 2 years, married again for a little over a year.
So I wonder that let's kind of like, how do you like count like years together, anniversaries, right. Like it's because you were apart for a while.
Yeah, he has a way that he likes to do it.
I'll simplify it because the 3 years, so from the marriage to the marriage and stuff, I count the year of marriage previously. But it stands as its own thing. So I would say, so if anybody asks me how long have you been married, it's a little over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
No one needs to really know anything else that I just meet. So just a little over 2 years of being married. How long have we been together? It'll be closer to 4.
Okay. All right.
Simple
and you do have a child from a previous
yes, a previous unmarried relationship. Yes, 9 years old.
Okay. For our listeners who haven't checked out your podcast or YouTube channel yet, but they will, if you can kind of give us like, I guess, the Cliff Notes version, because they can get more details there, but right. Just for those that are meeting you for the first time, your kind of interesting story about how you met and all that stuff.
All right, so we met through a dating app. So with my previous relationship, my child's mother, I became very disenfranchised. I kind of was over just women, like period, for a while, and I wanted to just kind of start fresh, just have a friend or just meet people because I had never really done it in my life before. So we met on an app called Meet Me, and I was pretty generic about my approach. I just, hi, my name is Justice, and so on and so forth. And it was no real responses, or they were just minimal, or I could tell people weren't really serious. When I sent her one, she sent one right back, and we actually talked like human beings. And I was like, hey, I'm going to get off of this. She said, I'm thinking of getting off of this too. We exchanged numbers, and we talked just over the phone for maybe a month or so before we met, which was not a regular thing for me either. Just the communication through like digital forms. I'm a
I
you mind if I touch you?
Yeah.
Like I'm like a touchy type of a person. I like the face-to-face contact. So when we finally did meet, it was just a movie date.
Yeah.
And she
And I
brought her
brought my
sister
sister
along.
with me because I had never met him in person. So I thought maybe he was a serial killer or something.
And I told her I was like 5'4".
Yeah, you said you were really short, and you said like, and I didn't know much about you other than because like you hear those stories about people getting catfished. So I was like, well, I'll bring my sister here just in case I need to easy out.
So we did that. We went on a few dates, and things kind of progressed pretty quickly. New Year's. So like I said, we were supposed to just be friends. Just be friends. That's all I wanted. Some days, no, I'm not there. But New Year's, we were out and about. The ball dropped. Everybody's high fiving, congratulating. We kissed. That I pretty much should end the story right there because, and then she's like what? It was the look in her eyes. And she's like, oh, and I knew that things
he was a really good kisser. Well, you still are, but that first kiss was a really good first kiss.
Let's make sure But we kind of switched from kind of more like our dates were good and we were connecting, but we flipped the switch, so it just kind of became more romantic and we started hanging out more. I made a comment a few months later about still being, but that's I'm still on the market.
Still on the market.
I said I'm technically still on the market because we're not married, right? And because at this point in time, like there was other things that I found that you can share those things, but I found out. So this relationship's totally different than any I've ever been in. So the patience, because I didn't want to be in a relationship, so I was willing to be patient and do other things. I forgot I had moved.
Yeah.
In order for us to date, because I still live with my child's mother, she had told me, if we were ever to date, you have to move. Yeah. So this was like December. Yeah. So by February, I had a new apartment. Just in case, we were to start dating, I wanted to make sure that was already out of the way. So when I said we're off the market, when that was off the market, she said, after we came from like a family event, I don't remember exact words you used.
No, I don't remember either.
But it was pretty much like, I want to be your girlfriend.
No, the heck, you're not off the market.
It wasn't that aggressive, but it was like pretty much, I want to be your girlfriend. And you can explain my reaction.
I mean, you
do you remember my reaction?
You were kind of a little annoyed that you said it because you were like, you kind of had like this deer in the headlights look, like I don't want to lose her as a friend and I don't really want to be in a relationship right now, but if this is what it's going to take.
She's being nice. I know I reacted horribly. I remember like shaking the car. We were in the car and I'm shaking the car and I was so upset because I knew I was going to get into this relationship, but I also was like, no, I shouldn't. And so then we got in it was like, was this like, it couldn't have been April. Because I proposed in April.
Yeah.
So, it was a whirlwind of things. And so after that happened, which was between January and April.
Right.
Then I proposed.
He proposed in April. We got married in September. And then it was just a series of like me not having much life experience, him having a lot more than me.
We didn't get to that point yet. But just
yes, from there on. Yeah. Because that first year of marriage was good. Like we had fights and stuff, and it was me just trying to learn about how to be a wife.
Not fights.
What?
You beat me up. Not physically, but we have fights now. Yeah. I fight back. That at that point.
Well, because we were so different and I just didn't understand a lot about him. And I was just like looking at him like, why are you doing this? Like, just stop doing this. Like, because you shouldn't be doing this. Like, and to me, it was kind of like, what's happening? Why is this still going on? We are married now. You should have stopped this by now.
and I have my own concerns in regards to her level of life experience and just different things, how you say stuff to a person, and the fact that no matter what I said, it kind of came across as though I was attacking her, telling her she wasn't good enough somehow, because in my opinion, your family might watch this, but in my opinion, she was very coddled and just kind of told she was good enough at all points, and she just kind of got in her head, good enough is fine. I've always had to scratch and claw, and I'm like, I don't believe in good enough. It's not, that's another like an opposite thing, but I think she's starting to get it. But like good enough's not good enough for me. Like being content is fine, but then the next day I still want to try to achieve more. I want more. I want better.
Right.
So we butt heads on those types of things a lot. So we got married in September. By the next September, like right after our 1 year anniversary, it pretty much was done.
It was over. Just because of basically just differences. I couldn't be the person that he needed me at the time. He couldn't be who I needed at the time. We both needed to just kind of grow in our own respective ways. Like I needed to grow up. He needed to learn how to deal with certain things, just relationships in general, and then just some of his personal demons and stuff that he might be fighting with and stuff. So we ended up getting divorced. So we got back together because I think I said a little bit earlier, both of us just happened to be single at the same time. I knew that he wouldn't give me like the cliches, like you deserve better and he wasn't the right one and all that kind of stuff. So I contacted him because I wanted someone to like talk to about the breakup, and someone who wouldn't like give me fluff, who would actually like just talk to me like a regular person. So that's why we started talking again. And it just so happened that him and the person he was with were going through their own breakup. So we started talking. One of the first times we talked for like 3 hours.
No, we were not going through a breakup at that point.
You weren't doing
well.
We
had literally just moved.
But you weren't doing well.
Yeah, we weren't doing. That's the important part of the story.
We got back together. But you can go into that if you want.
Yeah, so we had a conversation. So when she called me, I was kind of shocked. But I mean, I typically am the person that people will call, no matter how they might feel about me personally, because I'm not really, I'm going to straight shoot with you if that's what you're asking for. And so when she called me and she said these things to me, I don't think I straight shot to the point that I could, because I didn't know. I thought that this guy was going to be good for her. I thought he was going to be better than me, because I just figured they were more aligned. And so when she called me, honestly, the first thing that I felt was like hurt. I felt hurt for her. Like, I was like, man, I thought that this guy was going to be better than me. And then I also felt not hurt for myself. One of the things that allowed me to sleep at night sometimes was the fact that after our divorce, she had found him, or they found each other. And I thought that was a good thing for her. So when this happened and how it happened, I was just kind of like, it made me feel even worse. I never was okay with how things ended. And my direct role in everything that transpired, like I never got over it. And so when we had a conversation, I said as much, and I told her that I never stopped loving her. Like the divorce wasn't because I stopped loving her. The divorce was because I loved her so much, and I also loved myself. I'm like, I couldn't subject myself to how I was feeling. And I was like, ultimately couldn't subject her to that too. So when I was able to transition out, I booked it. So after I told her that I never not loved her, she immediately was like, I thought that's why we got divorced. I said, no. She said, and I quote, then I'm getting you back. And then that was her whole thing from that point forward. And I was not broken up. And she was pretty much just like, no, I'm getting you back. Like, you're still my husband. And if you still love me, you're still my husband. I'm getting you back. And it's probably the most focused I've ever seen her on anything, to really be honest with you, because she took no for an answer. And it just kind of was like, so she would send quotes and different things to kind of let me know, like, whatever. And I'm, sitting here in another relationship that's slowly deteriorating, but I'm trying. And I'm like, oh. And the other person knew I was talking to her, and that was its own thing because she allowed it because of her role and everything too. So it got to a point where it got too bad, and she said, I don't want you to talk to Faith anymore. So I cut her off. I don't even think I told Faith I cut her off.
Yeah.
And I remember one day opening up my messages, and I didn't even know you could check blocked messages, and just bunches of messages, and I just felt even worse again. And so when our relationship, my other relationship, hit the death knell, I ended it. I said, I'm done. The first place that I went was to her apartment. And I don't even know if I explained look at you smelling like a chestnut. But I don't even know if I explained exactly what had happened or what was going on or why I was even there.
No,
I think she was just happy that I was there. Like,
it was random. He just showed up.
Yeah, and I had a suit on.
You had a suit on, and
I had a suit on.
I was in my PJs, looking all like ready to go to bed, and he showed up with a suit.
Why did I have a suit? I don't even know why I had a suit on.
But it was just, and that first night, it was just, we just talked for a long time, and he wanted more, but nothing happened.
That's a whole story in itself.
But yeah, and then we started talking, and it was one of the main reasons we ended up getting back together and moving in together again was really because I was living in one part of the state, and he was living in another.
It would have been very long.
It was a long commute between our houses. Yeah. So in order to like really try and make it work, we did end up moving in together.
But it was different because there was caveats to us moving in together.
Yeah, but it just made like all of the like us trying to get back, like trying to work on our relationship, and like him with his daughter, it just made everything a little bit easier so that we didn't have to worry about that long commute. So, but
that was one. But the marriage was something different because here we go again. I did not want to be married. I never wanted to get married again.
Right.
Period. So.
Right. He said that he didn't really want that, and because of what happened the first time.
And I didn't feel like I needed it.
Yeah.
There's a religious aspect to that too.
Right.
And after we got divorced, I kind of totally renounced religion. Like I just like it was one of the things that connected us in the beginning, and because it was one of the things that kind of disconnected us in the end, I just like blanked out of that. So then we got back together. I wasn't thinking of marriage as a thing that really needed to happen, but
I was, because it was how I was raised. And if you're going to be living with a man, you need to be married to him. That's just the way that I thought about it when I was like, for my whole life, basically. If you are in love and you want to live with someone and spend your life with someone, you just get married. That's what you do, because it's not going to be quote unquote right if you're not. And we had a very unique situation since we were married and then we got divorced. There's not a lot on that in the Bible, so it was kind of like one of those things, like he was the only person I had ever been with.
There is stuff on it. Remember, I tried to use it.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah.
To make a long story short, as long as we never remarried, we were technically still married. So my argument was always, well, but we had divorced.
Right.
But then I was like, that's the law of man. I tried every way I could to not get remarried, but also reap the benefits of marriage. And I'm just being honest. Like, so when I say reap the benefits, it means just provide the comfort and the continuity without actually having to get remarried. Because one, it was so soon. Like, to me, it was so soon after. Yeah. And there was so much I hadn't
we
relearned.
Were together over a year before we got remarried.
Yeah. But that still wasn't enough time for me.
But yeah,
it wasn't.
It was just for me, I would not feel comfortable in the relationship until we got married. That was just because I would always kind of feel like, not that getting married is a guarantee, because obviously it didn't work out the first time, it wasn't a guarantee, but I just felt like if we were going to be together again, we were going to just make it. Because I told him, that was one of the things, I was like,
it was the only thing.
I was like, if we get remarried, you're not divorcing me again.
Yeah. Like, that was her only request, nothing else. And I looked at her crazy, like, that's it. And I think it was a little lengthier, but I was more intense about how I said it, because I made no qualms that I did not want to be remarried. And if I was doing this, I'm all in. And you've been seeing how all in I am.
Yeah.
No matter how, I'm like, I'm all in, because I was like, I did it twice.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not crazy. I can't allow myself to think I'm crazy because I did it twice.
So
awesome.
So yeah, that's our story in a nutshell.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. And anyone who's listening, if you want a little bit more details, feel free to, check out their podcast and YouTube channel to get that. So, since you guys met on the app and you were talking there, like, what made you interested in the other person in the first place? Like, what caught your eye about maybe their pictures or personality or something?
You can go first.
Well, he was, like he alluded to earlier, the first one on that app to talk regular, like a normal person. Everybody else was very crude, to put it nicely. So he was the first person that talked to me on there that wasn't crude. He was just normal. And like I said, I was already planning on getting off of the app, but so we exchanged phone numbers and just talked. I don't know. I feel like we had good, like, it was just really interesting to get to know him because he was so different from me. Kind of like, and if you haven't noticed, he's Black, so that was different. So it was kind of like, it was kind of just getting to know like a totally different type of person. That was kind of what drew me to him at first. But then, of course, he looks good, so that helped.
If I was light enough to blush.
And he was nice and articulate and like polite. He understood. Just, it's on the other podcast, so I might as well say I was a virgin when I was unmarried. Like before him, I was a virgin, so it was something that kind of caused me to be a little jaded in relationships, because as soon as someone found that out, they were like, peace, like I'm out of here. So he actually stuck around and like wanted to get into a relationship with me.
I knew it.
He knew it, and I didn't even tell him.
It's funny. This is a funny thing about the beginning. I had a dream that we got married and also that she was a virgin. I don't know if this was after our first date or even before. It might have been after, because I remember telling her this. She said she never told me she was a virgin. Right. And I told her.
Because you don't really open up a conversation with, hey, by the way.
Right. So it might have been after our first date, but I said I had a dream. And I was open enough to be honest about it, because this could have scared someone away.
Yeah.
And I said I had a dream that we got married. And I don't know how it came up, but I said, or I don't know if I asked if you're a virgin. I was like, you're a virgin, aren't you? And she was she was like, how do you know that? So that was another reason why I felt comfortable proposing to her, because everything was different. And in my mind, I said the one person that could be different, that could hold me to a standard, that these things kind of happen. I was like, this just kind of, that has to be. So that kind of goes into part of my like attraction. It wasn't, I don't think initial attraction happened through like the digital stuff. When I first saw her, the first thing I looked at was her legs. And it was because she had on pants, and I thought her pants were like these jeans that had like newspaper clippings or whatever. So I'm from Philadelphia, that's a thing. Or was a thing at one point. And I remember in my head immediately thinking, like, what type of girl is she really? Because I had an assessment of that. But then I looked closer and I was like, man, she has nice thighs. Never told you that. But that was actually what I thought after that. Then the virgin thing happened. Shut me down. But and then I liked the fact that she brought her sister. I liked the fact that I watched a movie with her that I would never have chosen myself. I liked the fact that I enjoyed it. And just her presence. It was just it was very nice. It was very different. It made me act different in a good way. Not because I wasn't, but it just made me act more comfortable with not doing anything more than just enjoying someone's company with no expectations or anything like that. So, and then over time, it different things started to kind of develop. She danced at that point. I remember she sent me a picture doing a high kick. A high kick, but she was holding it. So like her foot was above her head. And I remember looking at the picture and I said, I'm going to marry her.
Oh, wow.
Like, because it was something about she had a lot of cute pictures at this, because like Christmas time too. She had a lot of little cute pictures. But that picture, and it wasn't even like a sexual thing. It really was just.
It was dancing. Like it was the dancing.
I was like I'm just going to. That's a good decision. I feel like it would be a good investment for later in life. So somewhere in my mind, I already knew that. But those are like my initial. My initial things with her. It's weird because I never really thought about it. Like what my initial.
Well, I'm glad you're thinking about it now. I'm just like always so curious because I know different. People are different, so different things attract different people. So I'm really curious about how that happened in the first place. And so you kind of already talked about this, about how when you saw her high kick, that when you were like, okay, I want to marry her. So I'm also interested in like when you both realized that like, I want to marry this person. I want to, like, they're my person, or I want to be with them. Do you remember like a certain moment that you thought that, or?
I want to say it was like when he, like, it wasn't necessarily one moment, but it was just when he found out that I was a virgin and he kept talking to me and he, like, it didn't seem to bother him. And it was kind of like one of those, like, we had really good chemistry, like, and I don't know, I feel like, I don't know that it was necessarily like a moment, or if it was just like a slow progression of like, okay, this is definitely someone that I want to marry.
She's uncovering stuff that I don't think we really ever dove into. Mm-hmm. I think because our thing was so...
Because we're like in it. We don't really...
And we wanted to be... Like, I don't think that the goal wasn't necessarily dating, because I think we had a conversation where it was like, if we get along and stuff like that and we want to date, it could happen.
Yeah.
But I think we both were really solidly focused on the idea of not, just kind of being friends and growing. That statement that I made changed everything, though, because the whole idea of being a virgin, it was kind of like, oh, crap. Well, if he's on the market, then that means that he might skitter off. And in my mind, and this is exactly how I thought, I said, well, even if I did, it doesn't mean I would stop talking to you. That's one of those differences between us, because in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to date. I was never a dater. So having multiple women in that way was not going to appeal to me, especially if she was the one who I liked, because I wanted to spend my time with her. But it was more so a thing of, I'm not going to stop talking to you just because I said I'm still on the market technically, because if somebody happened to gain my interest or whatever, I'm not going to say, oh, well, you're not. That's just not the kind of person that I am. But that trigger for her, that transition to the next thing, that was,
yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons, that's why everything just kind of transpired so fast, because everything was out of context of what we really wanted, which was why it ended so fast too, because
we didn't really take the time to,
I don't think a lot of people do.
Yeah, we didn't really take the time to get to know each other, to really like, it was just very quick. So the whole...
And I think it was kind of forced on my end, because after I had made my mind up about, there was a lot of red flags, not with her. There was a lot of things that actually happened between the proposal and us actually getting married, including the venue fell apart.
Yeah.
All types of things. Like, we didn't even get a dance. And like, that was one of the most important things to her. We didn't even like, we could have waited.
Yeah, we could have waited, and we could have done it the way that we like really wanted to, but it was one of those things like, we felt like if we pushed it back, it would be like a bad omen or whatever.
Or just because everything was just kind of happening to us, and we had to figure a lot of stuff out to keep it going. And the more angry I got, it was like the more defiant I got about just marrying her. And so after it finally happened, though, it kind of like smacked me in the face in a way. And that's not the same thing, but it's like everything immediately changed. And I don't know how, but it was like the chemistry that we had, the talking, the laughing, the enjoying being around each other. It wasn't like bad all the way, but it was different. And I knew that from like day one, because I think now it was like there was expectations,
right.
And we hadn't lived together. I don't even think you had spent the night.
I'm not sure.
And if you did, it was a struggle, and it was a fight, and it was something that I also never experienced. So we moved in together, and all of her living the way she's lived her whole life, because I've lived by myself and on my own. And so when she transitioned, then the mindset was very much different than mine and what I would be used to. So yeah, from day one, I remember those things. I don't remember all the attraction stuff. That stuff I remember, because I was like, this can't be true.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, now we're married. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
So I'm curious, because I feel like maybe a lot of people might feel this too, where like if you're gonna get back together with someone, like isn't there like some kind of, or wasn't there like some kind of fear that like it's not going to work out? How were you able to kind of push through that and be like, did you have faith that it was going to work out again? Or like, were you able to like be like, okay, it's worth the risk to like try again? And like, did you have any fear?
It was funny because I was willing to work on it the first time. Like, the divorce definitely was pushed by him more than me. I was willing to work on our relationship. I don't think I realized how bad things were. He was very just his words broken when we were married the first time. Like, he had a lot of stuff.
It was a cool, because I've always been kind of broken.
And
I said something broke inside of me.
Yeah.
That was
so I didn't realize how bad it was, I don't think, because I was willing to just stay married and just work on it, because I was like, we made vows to each other. You're my husband. Like, we need to work on this. I don't care about what you're doing outside of our marriage. Like, we need to nip this in the bud and work on this together, because I thought that we could.
It actually kind of pushed me harder to.
Right. So then he just pushed the divorce. We got divorced. 3 years passed, and then we started talking again. And it was one of those things, like, I thought I had gotten over him during those 3 years, because I had a boyfriend, and like, it was a long time and all that kind of stuff. But then it's so funny, because as soon as we started talking and he said what he said about not ever stopping, like, he never stopped loving me, it kind of flipped a switch in my brain that was kind of like, oh, you can have your husband and your child and like all of this stuff back, all of the stuff that you had that you thought was going to be your forever, you can have it all back. Like, and I was kind of like, okay. So I was more determined than scared, because I took it as like a sign from like God that like we needed that time apart to grow as individuals, because we both did. And as we talked and as we started like getting to know each other again, I really realized he had grown in a lot of areas, and he realized that I had grown in a lot of areas like that we had struggled with the first time. And like, he's a lot more patient, and I'm a lot more like, I have a little bit more life experience than I had before. And so nervous, scared, yes, like, and that's why I told him, I was like, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, because I was like, there was a slight part of me that was kind of like, don't put yourself through that again, because it was very bad when we got divorced. I was very depressed for quite a long time, so I was remembering all of that too. So I was like, we're gonna do this, and you have to be all in just like me. So but for me, I think I was more determined to get back all the stuff that I lost than I was scared. How about you?
At no point was I scared. Like, at no point was I scared. I, like, even thinking about it now, like, I get really angry and intense when talking about this particular thing, because I had made up in my mind, because what the separation and everything wasn't planned, it wasn't supposed to happen, but I'd already thought of some things in my mind, and I said, well, it's going to be you. One, I was like, I am not dating. I'm like, it just won't, I have a 9-year-old single dad. I was like, it's not going to, with my schedule and everything, I'm like, it's going to be too intense for me to try to build and find what I particularly want. And because I felt the way I felt about our relationship deteriorating the first time, it was more so what you were saying about, like, I'm all in, but when it's like, well, I'm all in, you need to be all in like me. The reason I get intense is because when I say I'm all in, it's not like it's not at all. It's very real for me, because I wasn't depressed. I didn't have those issues, but it's the one regret I can say that I have in life. Like, I was ashamed of myself. It's the only time in life where somebody talked down to me about that, I wouldn't say anything back. I would just allow it, because I didn't take the approach that I would even want to take. I just, to me, I ran. Like, the moment I could ran, I ran as hard and as fast as I could and try not to look back. So to me, it was more so of like, all right, you stopped, and now you're here, and you have to just figure it out. So after that point, and since then, it's just kind of been like, nope. She's like, and she'll have moments where she those fears kind of come out, and I'll just sit there and I'll look at it and I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm angry. I don't like you at this moment, but I'm not going anywhere.
Oh.
I love you. Good night, or whatever the situation is, because I'm like, those words sitting on this couch, or it was in here, meant more to me than our vows, because it was that moment that I think our souls both said, like, it's like it's almost, it was really like it's more like a death contract than a life contract, because between both of us, it's like, I know better than to ever do certain things because of what she's experienced and the hurt that I put her through because of that.
Okay.
I don't know how it's on my end, but I can bear a lot of more pain now in the specific way, and I know how to process stuff, which I didn't the first time. Like, I didn't know how to process any hurt, pain, anything. I just reacted to so much. But now that I know how to process it, I'm like, we're not dealing with issues that a lot of other people aren't. Sometimes you just got to take a step back, and every day is not bad. Where are the good days at? Where are the good times? Focus on those and keep focusing on those. Don't bring up the bad stuff, because then it'll become bad again. And then that's it. And I think, so it's not as hard. It's work, but it's not as hard as it can be when you don't know how to deal with your own crap. Like, I learned how to deal with my crap first, helps me deal with her crap.
Okay.
Like,
what advice would you give to people who might be in like a similar situation where they're like, what would you advise for them to maybe like consider if they're like unsure about whether it's worth to like go back to a certain person, like maybe they're conflicted, they don't know if it's worth it? Like, what would you kind of give?
I would tell them to watch your podcast.
Yes, watch our podcast. Okay, that's a short answer.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I would like to talk. Like, I like talking to people like this, because just like we like talking to different people in different levels of relationships, because it helps us understand more, and I think it strengthens our bond. Because I believe everyone should have one, and it doesn't have to be a person you're married to. I think if you have just one person in life where you feel like you can get through the dirt and the mud and the pain with, it just helps you get through to the next level, the next day, the next thing. So I would just ask that person, like, at their very best, how did they make you feel? At their very worst, how did they make you feel? Was that better feeling more worth the risk than that worst feeling? And some people don't know how to process that, because if I ask you what's the best feeling I've ever given you, you might say our wedding day, right? That was one day, moments in time. If you said the worst feelings was just 6 months after we got divorced, people have to really understand what that looks like. So if you said the best feeling was when you looked me in my eyes and you told me that no matter what, that you would be there for me, and you actually exhibited that. So it's a moment that's carried on through your actions. So it's not that you just said one thing and it was just a nice thing and you never lived it. So sometimes people have to look through and see who a person is. Like, that's another reason why you got bad, because you knew I wasn't a bad guy.
Right.
It was an isolated decision and a thing like that. So a lot of people, they don't know how to differentiate that. And they look at all the bad, they'll look at a few good times, but not the inherent heart of the person. Like, sometimes you do have to go, why did they do that? Why did they make me feel bad? And the biggest thing I would tell people is own your crap. Own accountability is the only reason I'm sitting here right now. And the only reason she's probably sitting here is because she never had to tell me, own your stuff, Justice, or fix your stuff. I had to do that before I even started talking to her again. I had already begun doing all those things, and I continue to do so. If people don't do that, and if you're not willing to do that yourself, as somebody that will be listening, then no. And they have to be self-aware enough to know, like, you know what? This was where I was part of the problem. This caused them to do that. There's a causal and effect space with relationships. Everyone wants to be right and win a fight. Every fight doesn't have to be won. It's just, you have your point, I have my point. But at the end of the day, if I love you, I'm not going to tell you or say anything that's going to be hurtful and to put you down. Hopefully it's to bring you up. So you need to find out, where was I trying to go? Maybe I just wasn't communicating effectively.
Yeah.
And then you got to learn that. But you gotta be okay with yourself first.
Yeah.
That's huge. Don't worry so much about finding a person and being in love and all that. Be accountable for the crap you can bring.
Yeah, and that's why I think we did get back together, is because during those 3 years, whether we knew it or not, we were working on ourselves. Like we had that time to work on, like I had the time to work on faith, he had time to work on justice, and like learn about ourselves and like what we can go through, what we can do. Because like before him, I had never lived on my own. After him, I got my own apartment. Like I had, like I worked, I kind of took care of myself and in a different way than I had before. So that alone was a learning experience for me. So I think that's why we got back together, is because we had that time to figure out who we are. Like who faith is just faith and who justice is just justice. Even though we had relationships, it wasn't, neither of our relationships were the same as like a marriage. So we still had a lot of us time.
Great advice. And now I'm wondering, like, where did you guys have like certain role models in terms of maybe people that kind of showed you by maybe their actions or something, like how to be a good partner? Or did you just kind of learn all this through like experience? Or was there anyone that you looked up to, like a certain couple, your parents or something?
Certain things I definitely can say that I looked up to my parents, like in certain things, like, because like growing up, I had both my parents in the home. My dad was a very hard worker. My mom took care of us. She homeschooled us. And whenever they got into a fight, like I saw them get like knock them out, drag them out fights, but then they would always come back, and like they were always able to like talk and reconcile. And like obviously as a kid I didn't see everything, but like I would see their fight and then I would see them okay. So I'm like, something must have happened. So but just in general, like for our relationship, I don't have anybody that I can really pick to emulate for our relationship, because it's a very unique relationship, I'd say, because we are so opposite sides of the spectrum, like in every aspect of like upbringing to education to like just everything. We're opposite. So right now there's no one that I can really say is like an inspiration or someone that I look up to help us now. But my parents are someone that I definitely looked up to as a kid about how to be in a relationship, how to be married. Like, yes, you're going to fight. Yes, you're not going to like each other all the time, but you work on it and you keep going until you figure out what caused that fight. You can hopefully do better the next time. So that kind of thing. But what about you? You have no.
It's crazy because I've never had like role models, and it's not because there wasn't people around that it could have been. I just literally from a very young age decided to follow my own way. And it sounds so arrogant. The only person I follow, and it's because I've messed up so much, is me. Because I can watch, I know my growth. Like, I know my growth. Like, I know 5-10 years ago who I was and who I've grown into now. And 10 years from now, I'll be even better, hopefully, if I'm here. So it's just kind of like, I always look at that past person as or sometimes I'll look at couples who aren't doing well. Or I'll say, I don't like that facet of that relationship. I don't want that in my household. And sometimes I'll say it. And if other people would hear it, it would sound controlling. It would sound like, she has the right to do what she wants, and she does. But what I've learned about relationships on my own, and just what I know what I want and what I like. And so a lot of the things that we do together, a lot of things that we do in regards to talking about the podcast, though some of those topics come from, that might be the fear. Like, there's a fear that there's going to be things that happen where if we're having a bad day or we're having a bad time and I don't like you in that moment because of that, there's something else that's been taking place that now all of a sudden is coming up. Like, I'm not going to fight dirty by saying, you're a slob. when that could already have been taken care of. When if one of us gains like significant amount of weight or something like that, I'm not going to wait until you're like 400 pounds and then go, I don't want to touch you anymore. No, we want to start putting things in place and implementing things because I want to keep my attraction to my. We're going to get older. Things are going to start drooping. Hey, that's going to happen, and that's fine. But in the things that we can control, it's like I want to wake up and I want to go out into the community because I'm a representation of her. So I want to always make sure that I'm a better me for her, a better me for Arabella, my daughter, and we have a child. So that's what's important to me. I don't see that in all places with all people. Yeah. There's different people who have some facets, but I'm the only male that I know in my specific situation, like with my daughter all the time, and the way that I work and my process with my relationship, my accountability. Like, I don't know any one man. So there's a series of men and I pick and choose, but I also can differentiate like their pitfalls. So it's very hard for me to say I look up to you when I know what your weaknesses are. And I would understand if someone said that about me as well, where they're like, you know what, you're very smart, you know this, you know that, but your history is spotty. I can respect it. So it's I don't really have anyone, but I just kind of pick, usually this is bad, I don't want this. So I typically try to work to do the opposite.
I think that's pretty great that it seems like you just, you've learned a lot just from like your mistakes and you've grown from it. Because I think, some people don't do that and they'll be like, why is this happening? Because they don't really like take the time to kind of look inward and maybe seeing what they're contributing. So, that's some good advice for anyone that's listening. Wrapping up, I have some other questions here, the last few. Okay, so what are your favorite qualities about each other?
My favorite quality about Justice would probably be, well, it's actually caveat, my favorite and my least favorite would be his
that's historical.
His pushing me to be a better person. Because since being with him, he is literally the only person in my life. If anybody's listening to this that's in my life and you get offended, I'm sorry. But like, he is literally the only person that has like consistently pushed me to be better than I am. To whether it be like health wise, like right, fitness, like whether it be working. So like, because I'm a
your career goals,
so like all those different things, and like, so it's my favorite thing about him because I know I need it, but it's my least favorite thing because sometimes he gets annoying with it. But but yeah, I'd say that would probably be it.
It's kind of funny because I would say my favorite is also my least favorite. She's the most convicted. My wife is one of one. She's not one of a million. She's not one in a lifetime. She's one of one. Like, I don't even know how to explain her to other people. There's a few things about her very specifically that I've never like, and I've seen a lot. I've never. It's some of it is like great puzzling. Some of it's just puzzling. Like, how did I marry you twice? Like, so when it comes down to it, it's like. But she's super convicted about certain things. She has a belief system, like she's passionate about certain things. And I don't necessarily agree with everything she's passionate about, but the fact that she's so firm, she's unwavering, like those few things might be a thing where she would say, screw you, Justice, because she's passionate about that belief in that. And I kind of like that because it means that it's somewhere deep down rooted in her. And it's not something I've always seen in her in certain ways. So I enjoy that. Her demeanor is so much different. Her temperament's different than mine mostly. She's kind of like not if we were like Scooby-Doo, like I would definitely be like Velma. And you would be like Shaggy or Scooby. Like I'm always thinking and processing and trying to figure things out, and she's more of the which is super annoying sometimes, most of the time. But I accept it because I know that's like her thing, and some days I want her to not be like that. But I also know how I am. So we both were like that. It would just be horrible. I would think it would be good, but if it's just like, oh my goodness, did we forget? Do we have everything? You have your Swiss Army knife? Do you have your Swiss Army knife in the data and then your backpack full of everything in case the apocalypse? That's me.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of like, I don't know where my keys are. Like, and it's just like, so like her quirks are ironically, dang, what are her things that I like, because her quirks are very specific. I wouldn't accept them from anyone else.
Aw.
I wouldn't
That's
accept them
love.
from anyone. Don't enhance them because I'm saying it. But I think that's really what it is.
Aw. Oh my God,
Plus,
that's so
she works
cute.
really hard. She works really hard.
It's really cool to see that like you guys are a relationship where it's like opposites attract and you kind of balance each other out. So yeah, that's cool. Because I usually don't date my opposite, but it's cool to see like when it does work. Maybe that's why I'm still single. So maybe I should date my opposite. So what is something that like a positive trait about your partner that you wish more people knew about, that maybe it's not as apparent, but you think it's like a really great thing?
She's really smart. Like, sometimes it's alarming how really smart she is. Like, and she's really good at, like, damn, sorry. But when I think about it out loud, and I don't normally think about it, like, she's extremely good at games, specific games I've never like heard of or played or something. Like, she knows a lot of stuff, and I'm just like, how do you know that? Like how do you know? Because she was homeschooled too, so it's not even just like her life experience, it's like education. I'm just like, and she surprises me all the time, because then she'll turn right back around and I don't know where my keys are, and I'm just like, how? So sometimes I forget how really smart she is and how talented she is, because she's not a person who, if I had talents like she had talent, like, I would go around showing what I know, because I'm like, I have a talent. Like, to me, I don't really have any talent. Someone else will have to point it out and tell me. My talent probably is I try really hard. Like, I try hard. Like, that's it. But it would be that she's really, really smart, and that she's really talented.
For him, I would say he's a fantastic cook. Like, he is the cook of the family, and
Most people know that.
Not our listeners don't know, and her listeners don't know.
They can look at my cheeks and tell that I'm a good cook.
So yeah, he's a really good cook, and then also kind of on that too is he knows how to, like, he likes to shop. I do not. Like, if I want something, I will go to one store and I will get what I need from that one store. He is the type that he will go, he knows like that, like, Wise has meat for this price. Walmart has food for this price. Like, the freaking every like, he can go to different stores for different things because he knows where the best price is. And I am not that way at all. Like, I will spend extra money to just go to one store. Like,
I'm like the only super budgeter who doesn't like coupon. It's just like, I just know, and it just, like, certain information gets stuck here because I like, shopping's my hobby. Like, grocery shopping, clothing, I love it, and there's no greater feeling. I don't know, I'm lying. It's like 5 greater feelings, but so it's in my top 10 of like buying a lot of stuff, and I'm just like, like, my shoes I just bought and everything like that. And I'm just like, only paid $50 for both these pairs of shoes, and it's just it's an awesome feeling to me because somebody else will do it and be like, I have this one thing and I spent all this money, and I'm like, like, and it's kind of like, I kind of like chuckle at them because I'm like, I have extra money to go do something else I want to do, like, because I just thought about the fact that I can get this cheaper somewhere else, and I can make it. Like, if I got chicken, and I'm just like, they're like, you spent $20 on this chicken, I spent $5, and I made an Asian chicken, and then I made like chicken marsala, and then I made Parmesan chicken for $5. It's great.
Yeah, so that's his thing, I would say.
Nice. That's awesome. Do you by any chance know the YouTuber Graham Stephan?
I do not.
No. Okay, well, if you love saving money, I recommend him. I'm kind of like that too. I'm pretty frugal. So he's like a millionaire, but he's very frugal too. He'll like go out of his way to save like even a few pennies. So like and he's getting really popular, so I recommend him. Just a graham cracker, just Graham Stephan. But yeah, check him out. He has like really good like financial advice and just like tips on saving money. So if you want to save even more money, I mean, Faith might not like my recommending this.
You don't follow the same stuff on YouTube typically, like unless it's like like you or something like that. Like we'll follow you together. Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, we have our own set. Once again, opposite. I'm in the fitness and sports. You're in like hair.
Yeah. No, I love watching like Brad Mondo. He's like one of my favorite ones to watch now on YouTube. He's this awesome hairdresser that like watches other people do hairdressing and like and then he'll like critique them and stuff. It's one of my favorite things to do now. I'm a cosmetologist and I teach cosmetology as well, so I'm very into that.
Of course, yeah. Okay, yeah, I think I've seen some of his videos. So the very last question, I can't believe it's already been like an hour. That's crazy. It went by so fast. So any other, advice, like words of wisdom you want to share to anyone, just to like, make a relationship last?
What I've noticed for myself that's been like something that I need to work on, but I feel like it's going to start helping, is don't put so much pressure on yourself, because I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself and just in everything, but especially in the relationship, because I mean, we got back together after however many, so like I want to make it work and I want to be happy and I want him to be happy. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. And that's something that I feel like I need to stop doing. Like, just, it's okay to mess up. Just don't wallow in your mess up. Get up, dust yourself off, try again. Each day is a new day.
Okay.
So that's
great.
That's mine.
I suggest everybody just be awesome.
That's a good advice too.
No, honestly, I suggest that people, like, really, I'm really big on just looking at yourself first. Don't try to find Mr. Right, or even Mr. Right now or Mrs. Right now. Like, take time to really evaluate and understand, like, there's going to be people you might have to like let go. You're going to have to go through a few bad points to get, but when you do it the right way, you can say, I like this guy, I like this girl. It just didn't work because we're not compatible. Like, chemistry is really real. And it doesn't normally work like me and her. Like, we're like divine intervention. Like, there's something above us working, because when I think about it, I wouldn't outrightly do this, but I've done it twice. So it's just like there's something more. For a lot of other people, like, there's a chemistry, and just understand the difference between I like you right now and you're somebody I can build with. Once you find out that you're building with bricks and they're building with straw, it takes a long time to turn the straw on the brick. So you're going to either be patient enough to wait and work that out with them, or you're going to have to go. And it's okay to jump ship. Like, life is short. You do not want to waste time on the wrong people. So once you start seeing red flags, believe them. Go about getting rid of them the right way, and then just making sure that you're continuously growing yourself, and understand the more you grow, people around you aren't necessarily going to do the same thing. So you have to be mindful. Like, you kind of always want to look at somebody who's doing better than you in certain ways, and that you kind of are inspired by, and then go, that's what, because you don't have as far, you're then the person that kind of has to catch, but then it goes, you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself. Right. But you have to kind of catch, like, I want more because this person is a great person or a great community person. I want to do that, instead of the person that's like, I want to be a great community person. You guys can do that together, but this is already in action. So just really understanding what you want and why, and it's okay to put you first. It is absolutely okay. So keep dating and doing what you're doing. That's not why you're single. You're single because you're awesome. And you're still growing and you're learning. That's great.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. So before we end, I mean, I kind of already mentioned it before, but please, plug all your stuff.
So we have our YouTube channel, the Justice and Faith channel. We have an Instagram, which is the Justice and Faith Show on Instagram. And then we have the podcast, Spotify.
Is that they could,
and it's
bumper sticker?
It's a bumper sticker that we have.
We have merch now. merch.
Yeah, we're starting to like come up with different merch that we're trying to just expand and get as many people as we can so that we can like I don't know, you moved it.
Oh, t-shirt too. Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want to help people, and we want people to start like participating in our channel and telling us like
nice. Okay, there we go. I love it. Yes.
So yeah, we want people to tell us, what do you want us to talk about? What stuff are you facing? Maybe we can like have...
we're not hard to find. If they can't find us on one of our platforms, they can find us on Facebook. Just easy to talk to. We love talking and learning just like you. So just show, we want to hear from people. We like to know what you're getting out of this, and if you have further questions, like, we're not perfect by any means,
right.
But it's just, we understand what it's like to try, and we're younger. A lot of people in their 50s or 60s might say some of the same stuff we're saying now, but because we're younger and we figure a few things out that some people don't usually get to, it's like, hey, we can save you some time, some heartbreak on certain things, and that's pretty much our goal. And because we have different vantage points on a lot of things, I think we can reach even more people.
Right.
Awesome. So yeah, everyone listening or watching, check them out. I'm going to post links for everything in the video description and show notes, and, you know, get their subscribers, followers up. So hopefully they'll have like their own like talk show on like network TV. That'd be amazing. Let's make it happen. Come on. Thank you so much. Justice and Faith. This was, I mean, just your names are just so perfect. Like, I was like, did they make that up? Those are their actual names? Like, that's so perfect. So
we're a superhero team. We're a superhero team. That's what it is. Yes. I'm like the Robin, though. He's Batman.
Nice.
I'm like Batman.
Yeah, definitely. I was like, are they? Yeah, you definitely sound like a superhero team. Perfect name for a show. Like,
right.
I definitely feel like you guys are meant to be. So, in so many ways. But yeah, thank you so much again. Stay safe. I wish you the best with everything, and you know, hopefully we'll like collab again sometime.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
This was fun.
Bye.
Bye.
And that is it for this episode of the How to Relationship podcast. Thank you again so much, Justice and Faith, for being on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. So make sure to support them by following them, you know, on Spotify, all the different platforms that they're on. Subscribe to their YouTube channel, get their merch, follow them on Instagram, Facebook, everything. The links, as I said, are all in the video description. And if you want to follow this podcast, support it, links are below. You can support by giving a donation, or you can just support on social media. You can follow the podcast on YouTube, subscribe, follow it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, several different platforms. Links are all in the video description. Also follow the podcast on Instagram and Facebook at How to Relationship Podcast. And if you are part of a couple and you feel like you have a lot you want to contribute, you want to share your story, I would love to have you on. So please contact me through, you know, Instagram, Facebook. You can even leave a comment below, and hopefully I can get in touch with you. And there's also a form you can fill out as well, and I'm gonna leave that in the show notes and video description. And yeah, you know, stay tuned. You don't want to miss any of the other amazing couples I have coming up. So I hope you follow the podcast, and I hope you enjoyed it. And please, you know, leave a review for the podcast. That really helps out as well, so other people can find it. I know there's a lot of different relationship dating podcasts out there, so it kind of makes it hard for people to find us. But the more you like us, follow us, leave a review, that really helps out. That's it for me. Thanks again so much for watching and or listening. Thanks again, Justice and Faith, and we will see you next time on the How to Relationship podcast.